Yes, sir. We are live for another episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back. And I feel like on the last episode, we touched on a lot of different things: receivers, injuries, guys that, the bottom of the receivers, who's trying to make it. Is it Snead? Is it Conley? Then we got to the quarterbacks today. Unfortunately, it's going to be all about the quarterback position. The 49ers starting quarterback, Brock Purdy. How did he practice? What did it look like? We're going to revisit last year, things he did well, things to look out for, and maybe what our expectations are for Brock Purdy this upcoming season. I hope everybody's having a great day. And before we even get started, man, you already know what to do.
Like and subscribe this video.
All right. And right here, sponsor partner of the show, Underdog Fantasy. Make sure you guys, and listen, I don't know about y'all, but they got all these preseason games on right now. So you know what I'm doing. I'm on Underdog Fantasy even in preseason. It's low-key kind of addictive just a little bit, but you ain't got to put a whole bunch of money out there, a few dollars, parlay that with some of the player props and all that, do the little higher lowers and make you some money even in the preseason. So if you want to do that, download the app Underdog Fantasy or go to underdogfantasy.com and use promo code Crocky. They will double your initial deposit up to $100. So if you put $100 in, guess what? They're going to match that, and you're going to have $200 to play with, man. Everybody loves free money, so go get that right now. Underdog Fantasy. We taking off. We just had a draft. Where were you at when we had the draft last night? You probably wasn't there because you don't got Underdog Fantasy. So go download the Underdog Fantasy app right now and use promo code Crocky so I can get paid. Let's go. All right, man. We're going to get into San Francisco 49ers practice and kind of what it looked like. And I know everybody, it was rough. It was rough. And not just for Brock Purdy. And obviously, he is the 49ers starting quarterback. So he's going to get a lot of this attention. But I felt like it was kind of just rough all the way around for 49ers offense, for their defense. So I don't know. We probably shouldn't hit the panic button. I feel like the 49ers have shown that they can play very well, regardless of how maybe an offseason looks, a practice looks and whatnot. But we'll touch on some things that might be a little bit more concerning and things to just continue to look out for. And of course, we are doing it with my guy, Josh Harper. What they call you? They're calling you a Raider Insider.
Raider.
All right, look, Josh is not a Raider Insider.
Not at all.
All right, Josh is not a Raider Insider. Let's get that out the way. Josh is somebody that's definitely in tune with football. Again, his brother coaches for the San Francisco 49ers. He grew up a 49er fan. Who's Willie Harper to you?
That's my dad.
So he played in the NFL.
Yeah, he played in the NFL like 13 years. Got a Super Bowl ring. So,
What?
Yeah. So
Okay.
We was born into it. We was born into it.
There we go. So, okay, I mean, come on, man. Dad got a Super Bowl ring with the 49ers, so he's been around the game for a long time. I talked about all his great statistical, historical things he did at Fresno State, one of the all-time leading receivers in the school's history, top 3 in receptions, top 7 in yards. I get that right? Yeah, I got that right.
Top 2 in touchdowns. Don't forget that.
Oh, shoot, top 2 in touchdowns. And who's number 1?
Guess. Devontae. Yeah.
Man. Crazy thing is he did that shit in like 2 years. He was going crazy.
Yeah, he's unreal.
Yeah.
Y'all see it today?
Man. So what happened? I heard he kind of got hit, got banged a little bit, had to get helped off the field.
So yeah, it was so I was talking to some of the players and coaches after the practice. So they ran into each other because I didn't see it from my view. I just heard the loud bang. So they ran into each other. I don't think which I'm seeing out there. I don't think Charvarius Ward, waiting, laid the hammer on him. Pause. But it was like an accident in there. So
damn.
Yeah.
We got Sandra Gomez in here, and Sandra says both you and your guest made it on the morning roast this morning. So 95.7 the game. I don't know if you know, but they pulled an audio clip and played it on the radio.
Oh.
What you said. So Josh finna be 49er famous in a minute.
What clip did they pull?
I want to say, and I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was when I asked you, who had the better day, Brock Purdy or Jimmy Garoppolo.
Oh,
And then
okay.
you gave your answer, and you were like, And I would say, and I want to kind of elaborate on that because I know I kind of followed through with saying, well, Jimmy Garoppolo probably looked like the 9-year veteran
Yeah.
version
Yeah.
of Brock Purdy. And there's going to be a lot of people that take that as a slight, but to me, they are very similar. And I was glad that you touched on that. You said, just areas that they throw the ball in. The difference between the two essentially is Brock Purdy can move a little bit better.
More
He can
elusive.
move better. He has that nice, really good short area quickness. But outside of that, just in the sense of maybe some of the limitations or where they feel comfortable throwing and where they're going to consistently win, and probably how Kyle Shanahan is going to be most comfortable utilizing Brock Purdy, they win in a very similar area. It's over the middle. It's that 5 to 15-yard intermediate range. And I think Brock Purdy does a terrific job of getting the ball out, throwing completions there. The only thing, all right, and here's the tough thing, and we'll see, because if you can kind of look at some of the real like deeper stats, he threw to like the most wide open people. He had like the least amount of tight window throws and explosive throws, and all those things. Like he was pretty low down there, and that's not his fault. It could be more a product of the offense because I think Jimmy Garoppolo was kind of low on those things as well. One thing Jimmy did do very well was he was going to snap that ball out and get it out of his hand really quick. I mean, just out of his hand right there, the tightest of windows, and get it to receivers. If Brock can consistently do that, then all right, cool. But that's one thing where when I think about Jimmy Garoppolo in the area that he excelled in, he did that very well. Now, you get in trouble a little bit playing in that area. And I remember Chris Sims saying this. Chris Sims said, and the crazy thing is, it's just crazy how everybody changed their tune so much. But after Trey Lance started against the Houston Texans, Chris Sims went on there and said, they got it. I would start him against the Rams. So if y'all remember Rams, it was like win or go home. Yeah. Chris Sims said I would start Trey Lance against the Rams. The areas and where he wins and the areas he's throwing the ball to, it's less risky in the sense of kind of a more crowded area where Jimmy lives, where Brock is kind of living in that area as well. And your margin for error, and I don't know if any of y'all have ever played, let's say even 7-on-7 or any type of tackle football and had the quarterback, or even just throwing the ball on air, right? If y'all have, and I'm trying to paint a picture for y'all, and then I'll get Josh's take. But if y'all have ever just thrown the ball on the air, and I did like a little pro day for my guy, Greg Pinelli, he had me out there throwing the ball around. When you're throwing over the middle, you cannot you can't be off. You have to be very precise. Anything traveling kind of outside the numbers, obviously you want to get it out there. And you have to have a stronger arm. But if you miss, it might just go out of bounds or it might just fall to the ground. If you miss over the middle, that's the difference between a guy kind of getting his hand out. Oh, it's a little too far out in front of me. Boom, it goes off his hand, it pops in the air, interception, right? I mean, if you throw it a little bit behind the guy, intercept, like your room for error on those throws is extremely small. And right now, when you hear about the abundance of interceptions that Brock Purdy is throwing, and not just in these practices, but I mean, this has been something that's been going on all camp. He lives in a dangerous world throwing over that middle. And we saw some of the opportunities for some guys last year where he was playing very well, but it would be like, throw or so a game where you just say, oh, almost got picked off over the middle. It's dangerous to live there. What did you see from today's practice with maybe just how he was getting picked off? Because I heard one got tipped in the air, then I heard there was a deflection by one guy, then another guy picks it off. But what were your thoughts on just how his day went? And then maybe give us a little bit more context to the interceptions that he did throw, which were 4. He threw 4 picks, I believe, 2 and 7-on-7, and then 2 in team or 1 in team, something like that.
So what I saw from Brock Purdy, he, like you said, he lives in a dangerous area. So all of his picks were in between the hashes. So I know 2 of them were tipped, and the other 2 must have been like tight window throws. And like you said, that's dangerous. Like if you miss any type of way over the middle, like the two tip picks, they're going to be picked, or the defense is going to have a chance to pick it off, right? And then, like I said, the tight window throws, I don't know if it's because of arm strength. That's my guess. him trying to fit it into a tight window. But yeah, he had a Brock type of day. Now he didn't have a terrible day in no means at all, but he had some up and down periods, and I would say he had an average day, like nothing special. But without the interceptions, I would say there's no concern. Like he just had an up and down day. But with those 4 picks, if you throw 4 picks, I don't care if it's practice. It's kind of like that's never a good thing. Even though it's practice.
All right, now, and there's going to be a lot of people that say, well, you never know what he's working on and whatnot. I'll say this about practice in general. Yes, you can try different things, but you're definitely not trying to turn the ball over. Maybe you're working on something specific. Maybe you guys installed something that day and there's certain concepts, and maybe you haven't done it live, so you could get tricked or you can get confused, especially in the practice setting when you're going against another team like they are right now with the Las Vegas Raiders. But ultimately, it is not nothing that you're turning the ball over. Now, I've seen people reference Jimmy Garoppolo, which I've never seen anything like this. He threw 5 consecutive interceptions in the practice. Like, not, one interception and then he throws a couple passes and then, another interception. It was literally interception, 5 straight throws, 5 straight plays. That's still not something that you are proud of. That's still not something that you would say, oh, well, he did that and then but we were still good. Like, dude, we went to the Super Bowl, and which the 49ers did. But you got to remember how the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. And I saw somebody tweet this. I want to say it was my guy Jesse maybe. But we got to remember how the 49ers got to the Super Bowl that year. One, you had an amazing defense. They played extremely well, especially in the postseason. But even outside of that, they took the ball out of Jimmy Garoppolo's hands after he threw the pick against Minnesota in that divisional round game. So it's like, you threw an interception, and he threw another couple that were nearly picked. So what did Kyle say? You're done. You're not throwing the ball anymore today. We're just going to run the ball for the rest of the game. And then the next game, in the NFC Championship game, they ran the ball 8 times. 8 times. Ran the ball. They threw the ball 8 times. So you went from shutting it down in the second half against Minnesota and just relying on your defense because you couldn't trust your quarterback. And then the next game, NFC Championship game, you threw the ball 8 times and you just ran the ball as much as you could. Then you get into the Super Bowl, and what does Jimmy do? He turns the ball over twice. He throws 2 interceptions, right? So we can kind of try to gloss over it or compare it to, Jimmy threw 5 straight picks and still went to the Super Bowl. But to me, you have to take care of the ball. And if you're throwing like 1 interception in the practice or even 2, like, all right. But my biggest issue what I'm seeing from Brock right now is I'm still trying to figure out who he is. I'm still trying to figure out why these turnover-worthy throws are to the extent that they are. Maybe he's trying to figure out what he can get away with still at the NFL. And if he is doing that, then that goes back to kind of what I've been saying, and people didn't really want to hear me say this, but I don't care who you are. 8 games in the NFL is a small sample size. We talk about Trey Lance, very small sample size. Like, that's the smallest of sample sizes, especially for a guy drafted as high as he is. But for Brock Purdy, it also is a small sample size. And we just saw the Raiders over 2 practices where they picked him off yesterday and dropped another couple of interceptions at yesterday's practice. Today, I don't know if they went and watched the film and said, you know what? Hey, we're about to see him again today. He's going to get a lot of reps because he's not playing in the preseason game. These are the things that he likes to do. And they jumped him and they picked him off. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Marcus Peters picked him off, because we know how he is with the film study. He probably saw a tail on film and said, oh, okay, hey, if he does this, I'm picking this. And like, those are just things that these guys are going to start to pick up on at the NFL level, especially the more he plays. So when people say, oh, the film, or, the film, it doesn't matter, like, or the Seahawks, they played him twice. All that stuff, that's cool. But if he can continue to rely on all his weapons around him, then cool. But you're going to have to make some plays. You're going to have to make some throws. So that's just something to continue to watch on. He won't play in the Raiders preseason game against the 49ers. So next week, I don't think that the media will have as much access as they've had in Santa Clara. I'm assuming that he will play, though. So hypothetically speaking, we fast forward to next week. I want to say they play the Broncos. What would you be looking forward to seeing from Brock Purdy?
So the biggest thing for me is how he takes care of the ball in the actual game. He's still young. I mean, just to go back to people comparing to Jimmy G having 5 interceptions in the practice, Jimmy's a vet. So I can excuse that. Okay, let's move on. He's short memory, right? Purdy's not a vet. He's still a young quarterback. So what I want to see from him in the Broncos game, I want to see him take care of the ball. No interceptions thrown. Drive the field with the first offense, run the offense like Kyle Shanahan wants him to, and why I believe he loves Brock Purdy so much. But the main thing, no turnovers. I want to see him take care of the ball.
We're going to get to some super chats here. Then I want to touch on some of the things that we saw from him last year. And then now with him being the guy, some of the things we're looking forward to seeing from him, especially like week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. First up, appreciate it, the contribution from my guy Gammon. He says, you guys look young. Ever thought about doing flag football league? Basketball has big 3. Do you wish football has something similar? Josh, have you been active on the field or anything?
No, I have no groin or a messed up hamstring still to this day. So I can't go out there. I can't go out there at all. I play basketball on the side though, but I don't nothing full speed.
Yeah, see, I always say I want to, and then I get mad when they don't throw me the ball. So then I'm just like, no, I ain't playing no more. So every once in a while I'll jump in, especially if there's like a tournament. As far as like a league, sometimes they have like those flag football leagues. I probably won't ever do that. And when you've been around football a lot and you see some of the injuries in the ACL, and especially now as you start getting older, which even right now, I just ran some hills the other day. My Achilles start getting tight. I'm like, oh man, you don't want that Achilles to go. So as you start getting older, you're more aware and cautious of those things. So not sure I'll be joining the league, but I don't know. I always say that I'm super competitive and I like to have fun. So I feel old though. Josh is younger than me. I'm 36. So
I'll be 32 at the end of the year.
Okay, yeah. See, you still got some youthfulness in
you. Yeah, my
body. We got Timmy here. He says, Crock Purdy. Appreciate it. Appreciate the contribution and the new nickname. All right, and then we have a super chat from Deshaun. Here we go. He says, context, they threw the ball 11 times. Jimmy completed 8 balls to 2 passes completed in the whole second half, but he's the one that led us to the Super Bowl. Okay, hold on. So he says context. I feel like there's supposed to be like a period somewhere in there, Deshaun. So it's kind of a run home for me. But context, he threw the ball 11 times. Period. Jimmy completed 8 balls, 2 passes completed in the whole second half. So I thought he completed 6 out of 8 against the Packers, which is efficient, but maybe he's talking about in the Vikings game. But that's who led us to the Super Bowl. I would say the defense and run game probably led us to the Super Bowl. Appreciate the contribution.
Mostert had that crazy game, right? He had some yards.
Yeah, he went crazy. He was going off. And he's fast. I kind of miss Mostert just watching him in the 49ers offense. What are your thoughts on like Christian McCaffrey? All right, and maybe how he can kind of soften the blow or ease that transition for a guy like Brock Purdy. Again, I know everybody saw what he did last year. To me, that was an awesome start. But right now, especially as you start to kind of, I don't want to say build up these calluses with these interceptions, but it's been a little up and down throughout camp for Brock. If we are being honest, and I've said it before, I felt like if it was an open competition, you would not know who the starter is. I feel like it would be drastically close, and then you would have to kind of go off of maybe your style a little bit more. Where you talked about Sam Darnold yesterday, holding on to the ball, checking down a whole lot. Trey Lance, he makes some more of the special throws, but he's liable to miss a out route in the flat for no damn reason. And then Brock Purdy, who is the least physically gifted of the guys, but man, he can play well with timing and rhythm and throwing those slants and some of these passes over the middle. But for Brock, how do you think it helps having a guy like Christian McCaffrey as your safety blanket?
Oh man, so just seeing McCaffrey in person at practice, he's flashing all over the field. Like every almost, I feel like it could have probably went to the house. So he's special. I know he's already known as one of the best running backs in the NFL. But seeing him in person, you really see that ability and that effect that he has on the whole team. So I think how he'll help Brock in the games, like they're not going to throw the ball a whole lot in like the actual game, right? They're going to lean on Christian McCaffrey. They're going to give Christian McCaffrey these option routes, these easy dump offs for Brock Purdy, and then boom, play action, roll out, get Brock in space, let him see the whole field and things like that. So that could be some of the reasons why Brock is kind of struggling, because they're not using the whole playbook. But I can see Christian McCaffrey making his job like you did last year, making his job like 100 times easier, just because how effective he is as a receiver and a running back, and he's gonna cause a lot of attention. So those fake bootleg rollouts to the left and the right, it's gonna make Brock Purdy's throws that much easier to see, and it's gonna be rather than him trying to throw it across the middle all the time and in harm's way.
I kind of get killed for this because I talk about Brock Purdy last year as kind of it was like a perfect storm, the way things came together. The 49ers offense at the time was cooking. They're playing at a high level. Obviously, you have a bunch of these weapons, and I'm watching certain things he's doing, and the way people were talking about it, I'm like, man, I don't quite see it that way. I think what he's doing in the sense of stepping in this situation as a rookie is very special and very unique, and you don't see that. Just in the sense of like his role in everything from the throws that he had to make. So I'm trying to figure out what type of quarterback he is. I wasn't as impressed as other people. I think there were, like, of course, there were good things that he did, and I felt like consistent. But I'm looking, I'm like, yeah, I kind of struggles at this, and I don't like how he does this, and then this is a little weird. I'm curious to see how it's going to look next year. And I think right now, as we see him kind of go through these ups and downs, I think he's trying to figure out too who he is. But what were your thoughts when watching him? Were you saying kind of like how Kyle Shanahan's looking at it, right? Like Kyle's like, he's the real deal. He's the real deal. And when I think of real deal, I think of like Patrick Mahomes. Look, let me not say Patrick Mahomes. Joe Burrow. Maybe you might even say, I don't even want to say Hurts, because I'm still curious. Okay, Hurts, like, okay, let me see another year. Do you progress more as a passer? So I'm still watching Hurts to see, what he does and how he continues to add to his game. But the Joe Burrows, Justin Herbert, like, I feel like when you watch Justin Herbert, even though they haven't won those games and they blew that big ass playoff lead, you watch him though, and it's very clear, like Justin Herbert's he's the real deal. I didn't quite get that from Brock. Do you think that Kyle might be putting a little bit too much pressure on him?
I think he is, personally, with coming out and saying he's the real deal. I kind of saw what you saw last year, talking with a lot of people. He'll have the plays where you're like, wow, that's special. Like, this dude could be something crazy. Like that play he did and it's more so not the throw, but how he gets to that throw, like escape left, escape right, roll out right, set his feet, pump fake, things like that. But it was a lot of times where I'm just like, okay, I don't really see the potential. Like, where is Brock Purdy gonna go from here? Did he reach his ceiling? And I think the bar was set low last year. He's a seventh, Mr. Irrelevant coming in. He played well for a seventh round Mr. Irrelevant quarterback who wasn't supposed to play. He played better than well, if you want to put it in that context. But yeah, I just don't see, like, where does he go from here? He can be efficient. Yeah, he can become more efficient. But like, I just don't know where he goes from here, and I like to see where he goes from here. I hope he's something special. But I just didn't see that last year.
You touched on earlier, you talked about arm strength. And you actually said it yesterday as well. You're like, look, there's kind of like this lack of arm strength. And there's a lot of people that push back on that. You don't have to have the biggest of arms. You don't have to have the Herbert or Mahomes or Josh Allen arm. And I would say you do not have to have that kind of arm. But there is kind of a baseline arm that you have to have. And I don't think the NFL thought that Purdy had that kind of arm. And that was why he slipped to being the last pick in the NFL draft. So right now, as again, still trying to figure out, where he excels and whatnot, and maybe the arm thing is overblown. But when you say, man, that arm strength, I always look at it as, man, some of those drive throws, right? Like just the velocity of getting the ball from point A to point B, maybe in a muddy pocket, or when things aren't great, or being able to just throw outside the numbers, not necessarily throwing 70 yards down the field. But what are your thoughts on that made you think like, there might be something there with like the lack of arm? Will that be something that hurts him down the line? Like what made you say those type of things?
Just the interceptions that I was seeing, tight window throws, the cornerback able to drive on the ball, interception, the tips, not getting straight to the receiver. Maybe it's, hanging a little bit, tip in the air, interception. So that's what I say when I see arm strength. I'm not saying he has a noodle arm, but from what I see within these two practices, and then seeing Sam Darnold and mainly Trey Lance, seeing how the ball comes out of their hands, and then seeing how it comes out of Purdy's hands. That's where I get the arm strength thing from. And again, I don't know if he's still working his way back, working his strength back. People can say he's 100% healthy, this and that, but he may not really be 100% healthy and has to work that arm strength back. So, but for me, I just see those interceptions are coming from a lack of arm strength. Those tight windows, trying to fit it in. Those where the interceptions are coming from.
Right, and that would make a lot of sense because again, if you look at where he did excel last year, it was guys open and him making sure that he sees that guy that's wide open. Which sometimes with Jimmy or even Trey Lance, you don't know if they're going to get to the guy that's wide open. Yeah. So he was definitely very good and probably the best quarterback that we've seen with the 49ers at just finding the open guy and then delivering an accurate, catchable ball to the guy that's open as well. I think he did a tremendous job of that. And I think that really led to a lot of his consistencies as far as the arm strength. And I think this is where, and I'm looking at the chat, there's a lot of people saying he's hit his ceiling. He's hit his ceiling. I try not to put limits on people. And I heard Steve Young say that, like, don't put any limitations on him. I think he's special. He's this and that. I try not to put limitations on people. But I think from an ability standpoint, physical ability standpoint, he definitely has hit his ceilings and probably the high level throws you'll see him make. Where I feel like he can continue to grow is once the game slows down for you. All right. So I'll use me as an example. I was never the fastest guys or anything like that. But even now, as an older guy, okay, flag football, I talked about how I went and played. I played in a couple of tournaments flag football. Well, even though I'm not fast anymore, I still can be out there and I read concepts very well. So even though it's older, slower version of me, still fairly athletic, all right, but older version of me, I can play off coverage and play man. That's the crazy thing. I'll be off, I'll be eyeing two, eyeing one, and kind of the quarterback kind of peeking a little bit in man coverage on one, and I see this guy do this, then I know, okay, he's probably going to do this. So I don't have to be the most athletic person because, well, I can still play with anticipation. And I think for Brock, when we say, oh, he's hit his ceiling, he has not hit his ceiling from the mental aspect of things. So even with some of these interceptions, all right, it's, all right, you don't got the arm for that, or that's tough for you. But once you start to be able to manipulate more, right, man, you line up, you see that defense. Okay, I see. Okay, they got like this. Okay, oh, he's going to roll down late. I already see that. All right, so I know I have this here. I got my hot here. And then, okay, I know he's going to drop there. So now he's just playing a step ahead. And that's what guys like, Tom Brady, who still have a better arm than Brock. Yeah. Brock he has one of the weaker arms that I've seen. So it truly is kind of hard to kind of compare him to guys. But the Tom Brady's, or we'll say even like late year Drew Brees, which he has a better arm than late year Drew Brees. But late year Drew Brees, he could barely throw it deep out. He couldn't throw the ball down the field. They kept bringing in Taysom Hill to have to throw the ball down the field. Yeah. So, but he was still able to play ahead mentally and understood how to manipulate things to where he was still very efficient. And I think for Brock, again, I don't think he's reached his ceiling there. Physically, yeah, he's never going to be a guy that's going to consistently be able to drive outside routes or make layered throws consistently where it's kind of on a rope, where my guy Greg Pinelli calls it a a two ball, hard with an arc. So
Okay.
it's like I was trying not to bring up Trey Lance a whole lot, but Trey Lance in practice has been making these layered throws, and he makes them look pretty easy. And when people think about having a stronger arm, they're not considering that how the ball jumps out of his hand is on the line, it goes over a defender and drops right down, behind the defender, and it's like, well, he has the arm for that, where
Mhm.
Brock might get himself in a little bit more trouble. So understanding what he can and can't do, and then being able to play with anticipation, I think you can potentially see an even better version of Brock Purdy. Do you think that might be the case?
Yeah, I mean, his mentals can always get better. And like you said, the Drew Brees he was kind of he was about 40 years old at that point in time. But
Yeah.
I don't think he had the strongest arm forever. But he was still, you know, making plays and dotting people up, and one of the best passers that the NFL have seen. Yeah, I think he can become something like that by manipulating defenses and knowing exactly where to go with the ball. But he's like physically, he's reached his potential. Is that what we want? Is that what the Niners are looking for? Possibly. We're going to see how he starts this year off, and what type of progressions he's made mentally. What type of throws he's gonna make, and the way he runs the offense that Shanahan wants. So yeah, I think he has potential to grow into a better quarterback mentally, not physically.
You play with Derek Carr, David
Mhm.
Carr, Derek Carr.
Derek.
All right. So, are there any similarities that you noticed while playing with Derek Carr and then seeing like Brock Purdy?
No similarities at all. No similarities at all. I think Derek has. Well, they throw this term around, so I'm gonna use it. His arm talent is he has way more arm talent than Brock Purdy. He's stronger arm. He has the ability to get out of the pocket, which he did more so before he got injured. But he doesn't do it as much of lately, which Brock Purdy is really good at, escaping the pocket, rolling out to the left, getting his feet back set, hitting the open man, things like that. So I wouldn't say there's no similarities between the two. Derek can hit that long ball, throw it deep. Um, like his arm talent. I don't think people understand how much arm talent Derek has. He can make all the throws, and I'm not being biased. I'm not being biased. I saw you
Yeah.
give me a little look, but he can make all.
Nah, 5'5", Mr. 559. He said, "Crock, don't ever ask that question again." Hey, look, my bad, man, my bad. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful to Derek Carr, but I was just trying to get a glimpse in, because again, he played with Derek Carr in college, so you know what that looks like, you know what that feels like. Then you watch a Brock Purdy out there, and you see him. I just wanted to, know the similarities, because I do think that's the realm of quarterback that Brock Purdy will be in.
Mhm.
And right now, everybody, I think the league, they're still trying to figure out exactly where he's going to be at in the tiers. It's going to be really hard for him because of the physical limitations. I know people, so you harp on that, but because of that, it just makes the game harder. It's like me. I always use or you can even use you for an example as well. And I use myself to just paint a picture, because I can talk about my strengths and my weaknesses. But it's like, man, if Josh Harper ran a 4.45, just how much easier would it make it playing receiver? And I'm not saying you have to run that fast, but it's like, man, you know what? It make my job a little easier, right? So with Brock Purdy just having more physical abilities or less physical limitations, it would just make his job easier right now, because he has those things. He's not the biggest of guys. He's barely 6'1". I'm not even sure he's like technically 6'1" when you look at his combine height and all that. Just like Trey Lance, like he's probably listed at 6'4", 225. Lance is a little bit under 6'4". He's like 6'3" and like 5'8" or something like that. Or Brock Purdy is 6 foot and like 5'8" or something like that. So you're a little bit on the shorter side. But then you're not the freakish athlete like, Russell Wilson, like early on, really good athlete. Kyler Murray, 5'10", but really good athlete. So you're not as much of an athlete as those guys, and don't have the arm as them. So again, it's just trying to figure out, like, okay, well, when you're not those things, okay, you start the time to the Case Keenums of the world, the Derek Carr, and he's probably going to kind of live more in that tier of guys. But even then, you can be that tier, and we saw it with Jimmy Garoppolo. He was never a tier 1, tier 2 quarterback. Might not even been tier 3. But hey, Kyle with his offense can get me to play at a tier 2 level, even though I'm not technically a tier 1 type talent. We got some super chats here. My guy Richard Walker, here we go. He said, with Brock not being able to push the ball outside and deep, why would anyone play man coverage? What happens when teams force? I'm pretty sure that was supposed to be force. What happens when teams force him to throw in the tight windows? So I'd expect teams to start tightening down a little bit and playing more man coverage. The tough thing is, and we'll never mistake Brock Purdy for being Lamar Jackson, but he does got some mobility to him. So if versus man coverage, everybody's backs turn to the quarterback eventually. And unless you're going to spy him, which I doubt they're going to spy him, he can start making some plays with his legs, and that helps. Or extending plays with his legs and then throwing the ball downfield. So, we see Mahomes do a lot of that, where Mahomes, he will take off, he will run, but I don't think he's looking to do that. He likes to get outside the pocket, get a clear picture, and just sling it downfield. So you might see something like that. As far as forcing him to throw tight windows, man coverage would be the thing that forces him to throw tight window throws with a robber. So you might start seeing that a little bit. The tough thing for these teams is 49ers are so good after the catch with their, with the George Kittles, with the Deebo Samuel, with the Brandon Ayuk, and now Christian McCaffrey. I think that makes them a difficult team to play man against, because if Deebo just gets a defensive back on his back and you throw that slant to him and you hit him in stride, if you're in man coverage and nobody else has eyes on him, he could get up out of there. So I think that might be the thing where it kind of helps Brock keep some of these teams a little bit more honest. Here we go.
Deebo looks good, by the way.
I saw you tweet that. So he looks good?
Yeah, he does. He's in shape. He looks good.
That's good. He was scooting. I saw, I want to say in the OTA, not OTAs, in training camp, he caught a slant from Brock Purdy. Purdy hit him in stride, and he just took off on Jair Brown, and it was just like, nobody's catching dude. No, like nobody. Nobody's catching him.
I'm excited.
All right, here we go. We got Gammon with the super chat. Appreciate it, Gammon. He says, Josh, what was your favorite number when you played? So we'll start there. What was your favorite number?
I mean, well, it has to be 3. Because, I mean, I did the most at the highest level for me with the number 3 on, so it has to be 3, I would say.
Right. And then he says, why do athletes lie about their height? Crock, question mark. Are you really 6'1"? All right, so let's talk about that. So I don't know I think just people in general lie about their height. Like most people, if you ask them how tall they are, especially if they're on the shorter side, they're going to bump it up a little bit, whether it's half an inch or an inch, or some people might bump it up too. I don't know. I've heard some wives be like, oh yeah, my husband's 6'5", and then I see him, I'm like, he must be the same height as me, so he definitely ain't no 6'5", right? But the NFL and college, they measure as different. So I'll ask you 2 questions here, Josh. Mm-hmm. What were you listed at on the roster for Fresno State?
I would say I was 6'2". If I'm not mistaken, it was 6'2" or 6'1" at Fresno State.
All right. And then when the NFL measured you, because that should be different. When the NFL measured you, how tall did they say you were?
At the combine, I was 6'009", so 6 foot.
But is that almost 6'1"?
That's almost 6'1".
Yeah. See, and that's a crazy thing, because if anybody sees you in person, they would not be like, oh, Josh is barely 6'1". Like they might see you and be like, damn, like you like 6'2". Like how tall are you? 6'2", 6'3"? And you probably like, oh yeah, I'm 6'2". Like just because it's like, well, I feel 6'2". Yeah. I'm around everybody. So my real height was 6'1.5". And a lot of people are, if when they see me out in public, it's like, oh, Crock, what are you, 6'1", 6'2"? And I'm like, no, actually, like, I'm not even 6'1", but I look 6'1". Like, there's nobody that will walk by me and be like, oh, Crock's not 6'1". But then when I look at everybody else and some of these people ask me a question, I ask them, well, how tall are you? And they think they're 5'10", and it's like, you ain't no fucking 5'10". Like,
I thought you was taller than me.
Nah, I'm 6. That's
Always.
what I'm saying. That's why like the NFL is weird, man. Like the way they measure you, and this your legit measurements. Because I was listed at 6'2".
Okay.
On any roster, you pull up the Jets roster, it's 6'2".
Mhm.
You pull up my college roster, it says 6'2". But 6'1.5". I was technically 6
Whole
foot.
2 inches.
Yeah, that's crazy, huh? But again, anybody sees me in person is like, oh yeah, well, how tall are you? 6'2"? Like you look 6'2".
I thought you was too.
And I'll say this, as far as heights, and then we'll get to the super chat.
Mhm.
Antonio Cromartie, he's listed at 6'2".
Mhm.
Like, and that was his official height, 6'2". But you see him in person, I promise you wouldn't think he's anything less than 6'4". Like, dude is
Oh,
huge.
it's the arms, the long arms.
Man, long arms, long legs, stride is crazy, and he looks 6'4". Like, you see him, big dude too. I saw him step on the scale. He was 220 pounds and like still rocked up, beating everybody in every sprint. Like, I was like, this is a big, fast dude, man.
Man, gifted. That's God gifted right there.
Man, that's what I'm saying. I ain't got that. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Got some more super chats here. We got Quana says, my question for the guest. So this is for you, Josh.
Yep.
I'm sure you wouldn't want to make a declarative statement. However, based on what you've seen, does your instincts tell you the Niners have found a franchise guy in Purdy? So I think that is a good question.
That's a good question. That's a great question.
What are your goals? Is this I'll see kind of this year, or do you get the sense when you watch him, and maybe how you saw him carry himself last year, that this is a legit franchise quarterback?
So and I don't want the fans to feel like I'm saying this, Purdy can't be a good quarterback in the NFL, because I really think he can be. But when I look at a franchise quarterback, I look at intangibles and his arm strength, the types of throws he can make. Somebody special, right? I don't really see that from an athletic standpoint, or an arm talent standpoint with Purdy. But that's not to say that they haven't found their franchise quarterback. So I want to wait and see this year, because, like I said, I think Purdy can be a good quarterback. He showed us something last year. We can't disregard that. But I think I have to see it for a whole year, or for a whole season to say it.
Quana says, "Nah, just keep it a buck." So I think he says I'll say this, and I'll keep it a buck. I don't get franchise quarterback vibes from him, and I think that's what he's asking us. Like, when you watch him, like, do you say this is a franchise quarterback? Now, some guys, how they view a franchise quarterback might be different than the next guy. So there might be some people that look at him and they're like, nah, like, this is your guy. Like, this is a legit franchise quarterback. And we heard Kyle Shanahan. Kyle said, hey, he's the real deal. So maybe Kyle is telling us that he's a franchise guy. But I remember watching Jimmy Garoppolo. And like my guy David Hasselhoff says, I get Jimmy Jr. vibes. I spent time and I defended Jimmy. And then once I figured out what he was, I still would defend him based on how other people, and I think they were trying to view him through that lens of, oh, this is supposed to be a franchise guy. And I'm like, he's not that, but he doesn't suck. So there was only kind of like two areas for people with quarterbacks. It's either you're a franchise guy or you suck. Yeah. And Jimmy was like in between those, where he was like, no, he's still a good quarterback. He's just probably not that guy to really take your team over the top. Mm-hmm. So when I look at Brock, I don't get franchise quarterback vibes. I get quarterback right now vibes. That's what I get, where it's like, okay, this is fun. Okay, run around, make some plays. I don't get franchise quarterback vibes, because the way I view quarterbacks as far as franchise is when things hit the wall and it's not great, and the team around you starts to crumble, are you still considered a playoff team? So when we look at, Aaron Rodgers throughout his career, and he's one of all-time greats, but there are certain quarterbacks that no matter what, like, bro, we're going to the playoffs. Now, are we going to go to the Super Bowl? Maybe not. Maybe my team has to be a little bit more stacked, right? And that's one thing kind of against Aaron Rodgers, where he never was like consistently in the championship game, in the Super Bowl. We saw him win one Super Bowl, goddamn 13, 14 years ago. But no matter the team, as long as Aaron Rodgers taking the field, they're going to be in the mix. They're going to be really good. They're going to be in the mix. So when I view a franchise quarterback, I think you have to be able to do a little more to where even when your team is down, you're still keeping them up. And that's tough. And I think that it takes some years to get to that point. But physically, I don't quite see that from Brock. But maybe mentally, eventually, he can kind of turn into that. Here we go. I got another super chat from Damon. And that's a great question too, Quana. So refreshing to hear this analysis. You are literally the only one who is breaking it down correctly. One, Trey Lance has the physical ability to make a play right when it gets wrong. So this is a good one. And I think that's why you trade up to get a Trey Lance. You know, you trade up because of all the ability. The tough thing is, and I think we're starting to see it now, and that's the thing. It's like the team was not ready for what Trey needed. It was a team where, hey, we're kind of ready to go. And if you weren't ready to go, then you would have just let Jimmy Garoppolo go and play him as a rookie. But you didn't play him as a rookie because it's like, we gotta win. Like, we gotta win, and I'm not gonna hang my hat on this young quarterback who needs reps. So you kind of bypass that, and then you throw him in the next year. He breaks his ankle, and then Brock Purdy does what he does. So then now it's like, well, we still can't go through whatever you need to go through, Trey. We're not going through that. We got to win right now. We got to win right now. So that's a tough thing. A guy that does have the franchise abilities and even mindset, because he's a hard worker, he's tough, like he says all the right things, he carries himself a certain way, like all those things are great. But he hasn't been able to just build up that NFL level confidence, take on that leadership role, which I don't even think he really had to be a leader at North Dakota State, because at them schools, and you know how it is at like those, he's at a Division I AA school, FCS. Those dudes are there for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
So when you're a redshirt freshman like he was, and you got guys that's been there for 4 or 5 years, probably 6 years, some of them, those are the leaders. Right. Those are the people everybody's following. The quarterback is like, you're crowned the leader because you're the quarterback, but you might not truly be the leader and truly carry yourself like that. And even learning how to do those things, Trey has to grow into that. Where Brock, I mean, he's like, shoot, man, I was starting quarterback 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. So I've been doing this. I've been leading off-season workouts. Even Trey, the year he started at North Dakota State, he probably wasn't even the one leading off-season workouts. They brought in the quarterback from Iowa State who Brock Purdy beat out. Brock Purdy beat out a quarterback from Iowa State. He transferred to North Dakota State, then got beat out by Trey Lance. But when you have that Power 5, the politics of this stuff. You got a Power 5 quarterback transferring to the FCS. They want him to play. Mm-hmm. So like, were you the leader in that offseason too? Probably not. So there's just a lot of things that Trey has had to go through, and he just didn't really get the opportunity to do it here. So he might have all the franchise capabilities and intangibles, but we may never get to see that.
All right. Crock, I got a question for you. I got a question. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
So, the Niners over the past couple of years, they started out slow, right? They started out slow as a team. Do you think that there's a chance that Trey Lance or Brock Purdy, do you think Brock Purdy is on a somewhat of a short leash to start the year?
The only way I think Purdy's on a short leash. All right. So first, my initial answer is no. I don't think Purdy's on a short leash. I think that it's Purdy's job, and he would have to be a disaster. And I don't see Brock Purdy being a disaster. Yeah. I don't see that. So I want to make I don't want to make too much. I know we've talked a lot about these practices and the interceptions and things like that. That does suck. And I think he would have to have a disastrous game week 1, maybe lose week 2 to the Rams. And then, all right, you got Thursday night against the Giants. If you lose this one, you're benched. I don't see that happening at all. But the short leash, I don't think there'll be a short leash unless, and this is the only way that leash might get shorter, is if Trey Lance just goes and balls out in preseason. If he goes to preseason, and I say ball out, but let's say he gets 2 drives, moves the ball, touchdown, moves the ball, touchdown, and then you bring in Sam Darnold, right? Like, they'll be like, okay. And then you play against the Broncos, and Purdy comes in, Maybe Purdy looks a little shaky still. Maybe he turns the ball over. It looks a little weird. Trey Lance comes in, moves the ball. You're scoring. Maybe you get a field goal. Maybe his next drive you score. Or maybe you don't score, but he's driving the ball. And it's just looking like, okay, I think that can potentially shorten Brock Purdy's leash. I don't anticipate that happening.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to quite work out just that well, that picture perfect for Trey Lance. But that would be the only way I assume that Lance or Brock Purdy starts to kind of have a shorter leash, which is the whole situation is wild to me because you did not let Trey Lance compete.
Right.
And it kind of comes back to that. And I understand, you win a lot of games and all right, you come in, maybe you beat a guy, Brock, but not letting Trey compete, that was always kind of interesting to me.
Number 3 pick.
All right, here we go. Damon has another one. He says, too, Brock can be special, but it will have to be from the neck up. He doesn't have the physical tools to be wrong often. And that's key. Say, Josh Allen. Josh Allen does some wild stuff sometimes. I mean, I don't know how many times like he throws a pass. I'm like, what the hell was that? Right? Like, but he's also, and we talk about being wrong. When he's right, it's like right. Like it's high level throws other people can't make, putting his team in a great position, scoring touchdowns, throwing 70-yard bombs, right? And you don't have to do all those flashy things, but more times than not, like he's creating the explosive plays. I think for Brock, when he's wrong, it might be a disastrous because it's like, man, I'm throwing this deep out. Damn, couldn't get it there, pick six, And if he throws a pick six, I think it's more likely that it's a physical limitation pick six than a mental pick six. I think the mental part of it, he's starting to get that. So that's the part right there that might be tougher for a Brock Purdy when he's wrong. It's like you are really wrong. Let's say Trey Lance, when he could be right, he could be wrong, but he rolled out and he just, oh man, I just missed the guy in the flat, like just randomly missed it. Gosh, that was a terrible throw. How did I miss that? It was a gimme. But then if he makes some high level throws, boom, 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 it's like, well, okay, you kind of made up for that, and at least you're taking care of the ball.
Right.
So that's the one thing right there too, where Brock, while he still can be special, and maybe doesn't have that physical tools to be wrong often, but okay, can't be wrong often, and you can't turn the ball over. You cannot turn the ball over. All right, here we go. And we got Cisco Kid. He says, is it possible coach is in Purdy's ear telling him to put the ball in danger because it's just practice? Great show. Thanks for the content. Thank you, Cisco Kid. I'll actually let Josh take this answer because you definitely know more about like just the thoughts from the offensive side of the ball. So in practice, are these things that y'all are saying, or what are you trying to do in practice? What are you trying to execute?
So a coach would never like tell the quarterback to put the ball in danger or anything like that. Maybe would let the quarterback know, like this practice, let's take some shots, right? Be aggressive with the ball. But I don't think these are take shot, be aggressive types of turnovers. So yeah, to answer your question, no, a coach isn't telling a quarterback to put the ball in danger. The whole point of practice is to execute, and they want to see if this play is going to work against a certain defense, because most everything is scripted. I'm pretty sure, the joint practices were scripted as well. So yeah, not telling Purdy to put it in danger at all.
All right, and that's what I would assume. I kind of touched on that earlier today, where regardless, you are trying to execute. Yes, it's practice. Yes, practice is a time to work on certain things, but there is a level of, hey, we are trying to execute. We're trying to get these plays down, especially if they're staples of the offense. Now, one thing about practice, and here's the thing, a lot of practice, especially training camp, is not very specific in the sense of scheming against your opponent. Yeah. A lot of stuff in training camp is the things that we are going to be doing. So you definitely want to execute those things, like just the core basics of, hey, we want to do these things and we're going to continue to install these things. Those are the things like you got to hit on those. Yeah. They haven't even really got into, all right, let's scheme against this team, this defense, etc. So that's definitely something to think about as well. All right, man, Josh, I'm going to get you up out of here. And, man, I appreciate you coming on, though. Good stuff, good insight. We're going to have to do something weekly.
No, yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it, Crock. I gotta give me a mic or something, man. I gotta look official. So.
All right, yeah. We'll get you a mic. Maybe I'll send you one. Shoot, I'm about to be going to Vegas tomorrow. Tomorrow, I'm actually doing a podcast with some Raiders guys at the Wynn Hotel, and that's cool. That's at the Blue Wire Studios. So I'll be there, and then Sunday, I'll be on stage live with Charles Woodson. He's having a kind of like a preseason kickoff type thing. So Charles Woodson and we're going to be on stage. We're going to be talking 49ers and Raiders football. So that's going to be cool too. So I might have a mic for you. I usually keep that extra one for me to travel, but I might bring that for you.
Yeah, it's good either way. Just let me know. I'll pull up. Let me know.
All right. Appreciate you, Hart.
All right, Crock. Thanks for having me.
All right. Shout out to my guy, Josh Harper. Always good stuff there. Bringing us some insight from practice today. Tough day for Brock Purdy. 4 interceptions. That's tough. And it's interesting to see how certain people kind of paint certain narratives or try not to, or they try to hide their biasness, but they can't. We got Derek here. He says, I played football with your brother at San Francisco City College. So Derek, and he's talking about Josh's brother, not my brother. My brother went to Delta. Derek, did you play with my dog Lavelle? Because I know Lavelle and Matt Harper, they're real tight. So Lavelle, that's my homie, man. That's my homie. We got Richard here says, do you question Kyle's ability to run a team after drafting a raw quarterback and hiring a guy from the TV booth who has never coached the team? I don't mind hiring Greasy. I think for the most part with coaches, as a matter of fact, I learned this from Matt Harper. So Matt, who's Josh's brother, I've known Josh. I've known Josh for years. I did not know Matt. But Matt is tight with my dog Lavelle. And so Derek here says, yep, I did. And Larry and Ruben Jackson. I know, RIP Ruben. My sister has kids with Ruben Jackson. All right. But RIP Ruben Jackson. He was called dog. It's talking California, man. Stand up. All right. But as far as coaching goes, and Matt Harper told me this when I had talked to him, receiver coaches and just position coaches in general, most of your job is getting guys to understand things from the neck up. All right. So it's from the neck up. Physically, most of these guys are elite athletes, right? Now you have like the elite of the elite, but most of them are really good athletes. And most people coming to the NFL a little bit more ready-made. Even with Trey Lance, I think everybody looks at the mechanics and they think that that's his biggest issue, or that was the biggest issue. That was not Trey Lance's biggest issue. Trey Lance's biggest issue coming to the NFL was that he only threw 300 passes. Like that was his biggest issue. Just not having those reps, not seeing defenses, not seeing how defense changed things, not going through ups and downs. He didn't throw an interception in that full season at North Dakota State. Like those are more of the things that he needs to learn. So when we talk about raw, he just had to get out there and play. That's why you hear people say that, man, he just needs to play. He just needs to play because he just needs to see it. He needs to see it. He needs to feel it. He needs to learn from it. He needs to learn what it feels like to have bad games. He needs to learn what it feels like to have good games. And he didn't really have that opportunity. And it would have been great to give him that opportunity his rookie year, where it's just like, dude, you ain't thrown no passes. We're going to get you all those reps this year. And they said, nah, we got to win. And Kyle did have to win. Kyle had to win. At that time, y'all got to remember, one winning season in 4 years. It's like, can I risk having one winning season in 5 years with this rookie quarterback? Like, that's tough. That is tough. So, yeah, Matt had hit me, and he said it's the neck up that they mostly focus on. Everything else, man, like all these dudes, they got off-season trainers. They got all these guys that they get in the off-season, and you want to really work. You want to make sure you're in shape. You want to work on these little things. Tyreek Hill, who worked with Tyreek Hill? It was my guy, Coach Dub. Coach Doug Williams. All right, so Coach Doug, a.k.a. Keith Williams, Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, Kenny Stills, James Jones. The list goes on. Who are those guys? Like, they went with Coach Dub in the offseason. And now we see Coach Dub, he's the Baltimore Ravens coach now. but he was a Fresno State coach. Matter of fact, Coach Dub probably coached Josh at Fresno State because he coached Devontae Adams there. So, you know, a lot of times they have like a guy in the offseason that they get with. That's who's supposed to work with those things. So we saw that big jump from Trey Lance so far, and we'll see how it carries over into the game. But mechanically, he has fixed a lot of things. His issue has always been he has not played a lot, and that's just tough. That's just tough. You think Brad getting a little biased? Who's Brad? Are you talking about Brad Graham? Did you people look at Purdy college career? Dude was giving away INTs. So I didn't watch Purdy in college, but my bro did. My bro that's usually here with me, my bro Donald, he watched him and he was like, he actually rooted for Brock Purdy. And he was like, I rooted for Brock, but he was a little chaos, and like sometimes like he just did the Tony Romo, man, where it's like, man, you see him do some good things, you run around, make plays. He's like, man, he's kind of this undersized guy, and then threw an interception at a bad moment, or like just did some wild stuff at a bad moment. And I think last year we didn't really see the wild. I mean, there was some things he did but it was like, oh man, like that almost worked, like that was great. I still say the most amazing play last year was him running around against Seattle and throwing that dime in the back of the end zone to Brandon Ayuk. Like that was the most amazing play I saw last year, right? So you see those things, and then it's but what about when it doesn't happen? And he showed us those signs. I don't think we assume that those things will continue to the extent that they have, at least in training camp. And we'll see. You know, he won't play in this preseason game, but you know he'll be out there soon. All right, man. I appreciate everybody that tuned in for this episode. Did I get to these super chats here? Oh, you know what? Hold on. Let's cut the music off. I don't think I got to these super chats. Here we go. We got Cisco Kid. Is it possible? Oh, wait, I did. Tell them in danger. I got to that one. Okay, hold on. And then we got Richard here. Do you question his ability? Now, you know what? I didn't answer the first part to this, and not so much the second part with the coach hiring the coach, but do you question Kyle's ability to run a team after drafting the raw quarterback? The only thing that I question with Kyle, I think his process, which is wild, right? Like a guy that's so calculated, a guy that is so smart, he might almost be too smart. So I 100% don't question anything from an X's and O's standpoint. He's amazing from that standpoint. He is. I have questioned how much he leans on the defense when you have so many terrific weapons offensively, but maybe he just didn't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. But as far as his process, especially with the quarterbacks and what it would take, I have questioned that. And I've questioned it not just right now. I'm talking about like along the way, you know, whether it was not looking into Mahomes and Watson, which I thought was pretty wild. I mean, I thought that was wild because you want Kirk Cousins, and Kirk Cousins is a good quarterback. But it's like, I'm not even going to look at these guys because I want Kirk. And I'd say if you told me, all right, hey, I'm a first-year head coach, I can have Kirk Cousins or I can have Mahomes or Watson. There's two sides to me on this. On one side, I'd say give me Cousins because I know for sure what he is. On the other side, I like building my own. I was really upset. I'm a Laker fan. I was really upset when LeBron James and them traded away Ingram and Lonzo and Kuzma and Josh Hart and Julius Randle. Like I was upset. I'm like, man, we got these homegrown with Jordan Clarkson. Like we got these homegrown, young, talented guys that just got to learn how to play. Don't trade them away, and you trade them away. So on one hand, I love the thought of building your own and having your own guy, right? Like Mahomes. When you look at Mahomes, it's like, I'm a chief, right? Like Mahomes is always going to be a chief. You look at Joe Montana, like Joe Montana homegrown is like, I'm a 49er. Steve Young, he kind of, they kind of gave up on him a little bit. Then he went to the other league. Then, okay, I'm a 49er. But I like the thought of like having your own homegrown. So on one side, I understand going, I want Cousins because I know more of what he is than some rookie. But I would have liked to have Watson or Mahomes. I would have liked to have one of those guys. But his process, though, of not looking into those guys, and then his process of how he came to the conclusion with Jimmy Garoppolo, it's like you knew what Jimmy was, and it's like, did you know what Tom Brady was? And maybe I don't know, but you had the opportunity, you passed on it, and then being kind of lackluster when it came to attacking that offseason with quarterback. Like, do you want Matthew Stafford or not? Do you want Matthew Stafford? And if you want Matthew Stafford, go fucking get him. But what did Kyle do? He does what he always does. He tries to wait for the perfect situation to be aggressive. Okay, this is the perfect situation to be aggressive on this play, so we're going to go for it. Because this is the perfect. Man, it ain't always going to be perfect, big dog. It ain't always going to be perfect. All right, so there's just certain things out, and then it's like, oh, well, I wasn't aggressive. Mama's just gonna throw a fly. Hey, is Aaron Rodgers available? No, Aaron Rodgers ain't available. We're not trading him to you. Fuck you calling for? On the day that you're drafting number 3 overall? It's always been kind of wild. So everybody says, you can't question Kyle, he knows more than you. Eric Crock would have drafted Patrick Mahomes. I know that much. I know that much. And okay, niggas think I'm playing around out here. You know what I'm saying? Hold on. Wait a minute. Let me put some Crocker in it. Hold on. Eric Crocker. We're gonna pull this up right now. Just in case people think I'm playing. And this is the funny thing, like some of it I understand, but it's like, bro, you gotta be better than Eric Crocker. You gotta be better than Eric Crocker. So on some of it, hold on, let me find this. Boom, here we go. Present. I'm gonna share my screen now. So if Eric Crocker can see this, and look at my the interaction I got. See, this is back in the day. I ain't really get the interaction like that. All right, so this is back in the day. This is 2017. I'm having a conversation with buddies, and look what I said. Where is it at? I really like Mahomes. I love to get him in the second. So first of all, so that's one of the tweets. I really like Mahomes. I'd love to get him in the second. This is February 3rd, 2017. So we got to remember February 3rd, 2017, people weren't talking about Mahomes like that. And I thought it was crazy because when you put this film on, I'm like, woo, this boy is special right here. But I'm thinking maybe I'm tripping because nobody's talking about him. But I would love to get him in a second. But man, am I tripping? Because why does he look so good? So that was my first tweet. And then my guy says, like him, I like Webb in the third, maybe also. That was Davis Webb. Shout out to my guy Mojo. All right, another Stockton. All right. I said, I'm still weary of Webb. Great Senior Bowl, but his film is kind of hit and miss. I'd say 4th round. I think Webb was drafted in the 3rd round by the New York Giants. But anyways, we started kind of getting to it, and we're talking about guys, and I said, all you can do is go off of upside now because of these systems. And from what I've seen, Mahomes has the most upside. And that's over anybody in that class. Eric Crocker would have drafted Mahomes if he had the chance. You know what I'm saying? Eric Crocker would have drafted Mahomes. So, hey, listen, man, I ain't saying I know everything. I ain't saying that. But I know one thing. I would have drafted motherfucking Patrick Mahomes, man. But Kyle knows more than everybody else, though. Some of the stuff not rocket science. You gotta look at the people that talk on TV. You gotta look at the former GM, the former scouts that are talking on TV, and realize they don't know a lot more than you. They don't. Okay, hold on. They know more, but it's not as difficult as they make it sound. My guy Brian Peacock had the shadow draft for years. His shadow draft was better than the 49ers. And that's just him watching YouTube cut-ups and coming to that conclusion and literally drafting like every time the 49ers were on the clock for like 8 years, straight. Every time the 49ers were on the clock, he selected the guy that he would pick. And when you look at his drafts every year, it was right up par with the 49ers with how it played out. It was right up there. So it doesn't take like this I have to be a GM. I got to be a front office guy to be able to identify talent. All of us, all of y'all, we can identify talent. It's understanding how to go about that talent. Like, that's what it's more so about. Like, how do I bring this talent along? And Damon has a good one here. He says, would Mahomes have worked out with Kyle? I'd say probably not, because Kyle wants something very, very, very specific. And I think there's a chance. It's like, how you watch Mahomes, or how do you watch CJ Beathard, but it's like, well, I'm not going to watch Patrick Mahomes. Like, that's kind of crazy. That's kind of crazy. But he probably liked Mahomes more than he liked. He probably liked CJ Beathard more than he liked Mahomes. I would, if you told me that Kyle liked Beathard more than Mahomes, I would not be surprised. Because you know what? He probably didn't even look at Mahomes like that. Shout out to the chat. I really hope to catch some of you guys at the game and crack open the cold one with y'all. Underdog Fantasy. Who is your sure bet? All right, so we do got some Underdog Fantasy tonight. All right, let's pull up some Underdog Fantasy. I actually got my thing up right now. Pause. Wow, that's crazy. Pause. All right, let's go to the Pick'em. Let's share the screen. All right, and I don't know if y'all got Underdog Fantasy. Download the app right now. UnderdogFantasy.com. All right, I got Underdog Fantasy up. So let's see what football stuff they got going right now. We got Pick'em. All right. How do you oh, here we go, sports. I don't know how to do the find the football on the actual website. My bad, y'all. I can't find just the football. So, all right, you gotta have to go on your phone, underdogfantasy.com, and I'll look that up. But anyways, that now we'll do it for this episode. I got my daughter in the back. She's getting restless. You want to say hi to everybody, Pickle? Babe, you want to say hi? Okay. Wife doesn't want to say hi. Pickle doesn't want to say hi. I'm going to say bye. All right. Peace out to everybody. I'm about to head to Vegas in a little bit. Watch some preseason football before I dip out. Thank you all for tuning in. Everybody for contributing. Shout out to my guy, Josh. And you can find the audio version of this as well on Apple. I'll make sure that the link is in there. It might already be in the description. But until next time, I'm out. Peace.